Okay. I will now call to order the special city council meeting of November 18th, 2024. Members of the public are invited to attend in-person meetings in council chambers. Public access is also available by telephone by using the call-in numbers posted on the meeting agenda, and tonight's meeting will be broadcast on the city's YouTube channel. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mayor Leidy?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Luke Manjaro-Massa?
Here.
Councilmember Burns?
Here.
Councilmember Jaramillo? Councilmember Kondo?
Here.
Councilmember Roper?
Here.
Councilmember Goff?
Here.
Councilmember Nowicki will be absent, and Councilmember Walker will be late.
Thank you. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. City Manager Guyer, are there any responses to resident inquiry?
Yes, Mayor and Council, two updates for you this evening. The first is that Public Works staff related to two projects are still working on the Irma and Truda improvements that we previously shared with Council. The crossbars are down on the asphalt, but the word stop has not been laid on the asphalt yet because we're waiting on materials for that to be done. So that should be done in the next few weeks. In addition to the two mid-block crossings that council previously authorized, work on those is underway, and those will be done by the end of the year as well. So when you're driving down Irma, you will already have started to see some improvement, and then they'll be completed by the end of the year. So just wanted to provide those two updates to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any additions or deletions to tonight's agenda? Okay. Moving on to public invited to be heard. This is an opportunity for public comment on any item not set for public hearing. Statements are limited to 5 minutes per speaker. Statements must be related to city business and limited to matters of community interest. City Clerk Small, is anyone signed up to speak to council tonight?
Yes, Madam Mayor, there's one individual signed up, and that is Tom Lampo.
Welcome. Please state your name and address and provide your comments to council.
Hello, my name's Tom Lampo, 3951 Jackson Way. I want to remind everyone there's a spiritual battle going on around us. It's manifesting itself in the physical. Everything that happens does affect us, but God has it all under control, and God has already won this battle. For many, these times in the near future are very unsettling. So I want to give Proverbs 3:5-6 to everyone. It states, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to him, and he will make your paths straight." Again, that's Proverbs 3:5-6. Tonight I'm here to lift up North Glen in prayer. Please join me in prayer. Heavenly Father, in Jesus' name, I want to invite you here to North Glen to be with us. We need your presence, and you are always welcome here. I want to lift up everyone in North Glen to you. We need you, although we might not realize we need you. In Romans 8:28 it states, "And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose." Your goodness is all around us, but we might not perceive what is happening as good. At times we feel estranged from this world. We are trusting in what we see, and that is what we know. Please take our faith and the love we have for you and show us how what is happening is what you want in our lives. Father, our community has been stricken with the violent loss of life. Many family and friends are left with too many questions and not enough answers. We lift them up to you and ask that you comfort them and bring peace to their shattered world. Your word states in Psalm 23:4, "Even though I walk through the valley of darkness, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. We are like sheep. Be our shepherd and guide us to greener pastures." You are our God, and we are your people. In your precious name we pray. Amen. Thank you, and have a nice night.
Thank you. Is there anyone in the audience who did not have a chance to sign up that would like to speak to council? Okay. Is there anyone on the phone that would like to speak to council? You may press *6 to unmute at this time. Hearing none, we will move on to proclamations. We have 4 tonight, so if council would like to join me down front. Good evening. Thank you. We really enjoy proclamations. It gives us an opportunity to celebrate all of the wonderful things happening in our community, things that we want to highlight for all of our residents. So we're going to start tonight with Transgender Awareness Month, and our Diversity, Inclusivity, and Social Equity Board members, Chris Semino and Ryan Easterling Babin, are invited to come up and accept this proclamation. Whereas Transgender Awareness Month is recognized nationwide in November as a time to bring greater visibility to the diverse experiences of transgender and gender nonconforming individuals, and to raise awareness of the unique challenges they face. And whereas Transgender Day of Remembrance, observed on November 20th, memorializes those whose lives have been lost to acts of anti-transgender violence and reminds us of the importance of creating a safe and affirming environment for everyone. And whereas the City of North Glen is committed to fostering an inclusive, welcoming community that embraces diversity and respects all individuals. And whereas transgender individuals have made significant contributions to our community, enriching North Glen's cultural, social, and economic fabric, and deserve respect, dignity, and equal treatment. And whereas the transgender community continues to confront barriers, including discrimination, violence, and lack of access to adequate health care, housing, and employment opportunities, which underscores the need for increased awareness, education, and advocacy. And whereas these individuals are our parents, siblings, children, friends, neighbors, and coworkers, all of whom deserve love, dignity, respect, and the opportunity to thrive. And whereas the City of North Glen affirms its commitment to equity and justice, standing in solidarity with transgender and gender nonconforming people by promoting policies, resources, and initiatives that support their well-being and rights. Now, therefore, I, Meredith Leidy, Mayor of the City of North Glen, Colorado, do hereby proclaim November 2024 as Transgender Awareness Month in the City of North Glen, and encourage all community members to educate themselves, challenge biases, and foster a city that champions acceptance and respect for all identities. Let us come together to honor and support our transgender community, promoting understanding, acceptance, and equality in every aspect of our lives. Dated at North Glen, Colorado, this 18th day of November, 2024. So we have special guests. You get this. Do either of you want to say a few words?
All right. First of all, thank you. Acceptance for this community starts with proclamations like this, education, and understanding. We're in really scary times. The next 4 years, we are terrified. I have friends that won't even leave their house right now who are transgendered because of what's going on nationally, politically. And moments like this give us a glimpse of hope for the future for this community. I can tell you, I was disturbed to hear, from one of those friends, they had a bad incident at a Safeway in Washington Point, actually. And it's terrifying to me as an individual who's a part of this beautiful community to have to be worried. You're almost looking like there's one eye behind you. And this is huge for us, for our community. And, I love that the city educates. and accepts all. We're all welcome here, so thank you again.
All right, be patient with me. I've been practicing, so I'm going to. All right, so in general, I like the Northland end in the center. So you guys see to shift this way, not any further than the bridge. And when you stand, you can kind of stand a little closer, facing in. Perfect, there you go. More in, more in. This is going to be great. I got to tell you, I bossed my staff around a lot more than that, so you should be happy. All right. Cheese, everybody smile, no blinking. All right, one of those should work. Thank you very much. Thank you so much. My hands are freezing.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
All right, for our second proclamation tonight, we are welcoming DICE board members Wes Dunbar and Larry Rangel to come on up and accept this proclamation. Whereas Native American Heritage Month provides an opportunity to celebrate, acknowledge, and honor the resilience, diversity, and invaluable contributions of Native American communities and Indigenous peoples, past and present, who have played and continue to play a vital role in shaping our society. And whereas the City of North Glen celebrates the rich heritage, cultural contributions, and enduring influence of Native American and Indigenous peoples, whose histories and traditions are woven into the fabric of our community and nation. And whereas, through the Land Acknowledgement Statement adopted by Council in July 2024, we respectfully recognize the land on which we stand as the traditional territory of the Apache, Arapaho, Cheyenne, Comanche, Kiowa, Lakota, Navajo, Pueblo, Shoshone, and Southern Ute tribes and nations, the original stewards of this land. We honor the historical significance of our home and respect its heritage. And whereas, while we come together to honor the triumphs and resiliency of Native American communities and Indigenous peoples, we acknowledge the issues still affecting them, such as exploitation of natural resources on Native lands, systemic poverty and unemployment, substance abuse, criminal justice inequities, stereotyping, erasure and cultural exploitation, and the missing and murdered Indigenous peoples crisis. And whereas Native American Heritage Month serves as a time to educate our community, reflect upon our shared history, recognize the strength and diversity of Native cultures, and reaffirm our commitment to supporting and uplifting Native American voices and experiences. And whereas we stand committed to fostering understanding, respect, and allyship with Native American communities and Indigenous peoples by honoring their enduring legacy and addressing the ongoing challenges through education, advocacy, and dialogue. And whereas Native American Heritage Month is an opportunity for all North Glen residents to celebrate Indigenous cultures, learn from Native histories, and strengthen our community through unity. Now, therefore, I, Meredith Leidy, Mayor of the City of North Glen, Colorado, do hereby proclaim November 2024 as Native American Heritage Month in the City of North Glen, and encourage all residents to honor the vibrant cultures, traditions, and contributions of Native American communities and work together toward a future built on equity and respect. Dated at North Glen, Colorado, this 18th day of November 2024. So this is for you two. Would either of you like to add?
I'm a preacher by trade, so don't give me a microphone. So it's a dangerous thing. Indigenous and Native American folks give me hope. They continue to be a resilient and resistant people, and they continue to be a voice and a presence in our community that is a powerful voice of hope, and that I so much appreciate. So we are so honored to receive this as a dice board. So.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it. We're going to take a vote.
Okay, so once again, angle in, get a little closer. The last one looked pretty good, so we're just gonna stick with that pattern for now. Okay. All right, everybody smile. Don't blink. Great, thank you. Thanks for coming.
Okay, our third proclamation tonight, we are inviting CDOT Traffic Incident Management Coordinator, Brandon Hipp, to accept our proclamation. Come on up. Welcome back. Okay. We're talking about Crash Responder Safety Week. Whereas Crash Responder Safety Week, observed nationally from November 18th to the 22nd, 2024, is a time to increase awareness about the critical importance of safeguarding the lives of crash responders, including law enforcement officers, firefighters, emergency medical technicians, transportation and towing operators, and public works personnel. And whereas these on-scene professionals provide a critical public service, being called to duty at all hours of the day and night, in adverse weather conditions and in hazardous environments, risking their own safety to clear roadways, restore the safe flow of traffic, and render life-saving medical aid. And whereas thousands of crash responders are injured or killed annually while working along America's roadways, highlighting the need for all drivers to be aware of move-over laws, to exercise caution, attentiveness, and respect for emergency personnel on our roads. And whereas educating drivers about their responsibility to slow down, move over, and approach roadside scenes with caution can significantly reduce the risk of secondary accidents and improve the safety of crash responders and the public. And whereas the state of Colorado has a move-over law requiring drivers to slow down and move over when approaching an emergency vehicle, a tow truck, or a highway maintenance vehicle when their emergency lights are activated. And whereas the City of North Glen is committed to supporting initiatives, providing public education, promoting responder safety, and encouraging all community members to respect and honor the service and sacrifice of those working to ensure our safe travels. And whereas Crash Responder Safety Week reminds us of the importance of roadway safety and our shared responsibility to protect those who selflessly respond to emergencies on our roads. Now, therefore, I, Meredith Leidy, Mayor of the City of North Glen, Colorado, do hereby proclaim November 18th through the 22nd, 2024, as Crash Responder Safety Week in the City of North Glen, and urge all residents to respect and adhere to Colorado's Move Over law, drive responsibly, and recognize the invaluable role of crash responders in ensuring our collective safety on the roadways. Dated at North Glen, Colorado, this 18th day of November, 2024. Would you like to add?
I just want to thank the City of North Glen for joining our efforts to protecting the valuable resources and personnel that we have on the roadways every day. Crash Responder Safety Week, really trying to get the message out there to make sure that we're abiding by our laws and that we are following the rules of the roadway, and really making sure that we are being safe for everybody involved, not only our responders, but even private citizens on the side of the roadway who have their flashers on. That law was recently updated in 2023 to make sure that we're slowing down and moving over for them. So thank you for the City of North Glen for supporting our effort and making sure that we are getting this information out there to the community so we can all be safer on the roadway. Thank you.
Thank you.
zoom in a little bit, so be ready. All right, ready? Smile. Okay.
Okay, our final proclamation tonight will be Shop Small and Small Business Saturday. So we are going to invite representatives from the 47th Bakery. Yes, is that what it's called? Okay. We'll accept the proclamation. The bakery was recognized as the best of the best for desserts by Colorado Community Media based on votes from the public. So we have Leon Spaeth, Maya Rogers, Gina Petrano. Did I get all those right? Yeah, okay. Thank you. Whereas Small Business Saturday was created in 2010 and is celebrated across the nation on the Saturday after Thanksgiving, encouraging holiday shoppers to support small, locally owned businesses. And whereas the City of North Glen recognizes the vital role that small businesses play in building a thriving local economy, creating jobs, fostering innovation, and enriching our community's character. And whereas small businesses contribute significantly to the economic and social fabric of North Glen, with local merchants, restaurants, and service providers offering unique goods and services, enriching the lives of residents and visitors alike. And whereas the City of North Glen proudly joins this nationwide movement by promoting Shop Small and highlighting the importance of choosing local businesses that reinvest in our community and strengthen our local economy. And whereas North Glen small business owners and entrepreneurs have shown resilience and dedication, continually adapting to change economic conditions and demonstrating their commitment to providing quality products, personalized services, and local employment opportunities. And whereas the City of North Glen is committed to supporting small businesses by creating a business-friendly environment, providing resources and programs to help them thrive, and encouraging residents to shop locally throughout the holiday season and beyond. And whereas on November 30th, 2024, the City of North Glen joins communities nationwide in celebrating Small Business Saturday by urging residents to shop small and support North Glen's diverse and vibrant business community. Now, therefore, I, Meredith Leidy, Mayor of the City of North Glen, Colorado, do hereby proclaim November 30th, 2024 as Shop Small and Small Business Saturday in the City of North Glen and encourage all residents and visitors to support our local businesses, thereby strengthening our community and promoting economic vitality. Dated at North Glen, Colorado, this 18th day of November, 2024. So here you go. Do you want to add? Want to say more things? Yes.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Léon Etienne Spaeth. I'm the owner and founder of 47 Bakery. Try to keep the name pretty easy. Sometimes it becomes even more difficult. We're a proud small business in North Glen. We have 2 locations for my administrative staff. Right here at the Metro North building. Proud small business. We are looking forward to help contribute to the economic development of North Glen. And yeah, just very proud of getting the support of the city.
Great, thank you. Just promoting our business a little bit. We sell pretzels, pastries, and sourdoughs. And actually one of our biggest customers is a wholesale customer, and it's going to be the Prost North Glen. So grab some pretzels over there for us.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we got a couple extra people. So actually, I'm gonna have you, everybody slide a couple feet that way. There we go. All right, I think I got it. Smile. Yeah, definitely. I've had those. They're excellent. All right, one more. Great, thank you.
Okay, we have our first presentation tonight. It is the Youth Commission Quarterly Report. So I would like to welcome up Youth Commission members Mira Bippin and Nasli Sofiani are presenting the update to City Council. Welcome.
Hi, my name is Mira Bippin, and I'm currently the president of the Youth Commission.
I'm Nasli Sufiani, and I'm currently the vice president of the Youth Commission.
And today we'll be giving you guys our quarterly report from July to about September. So going into a little bit of July, per our bylaws, we're able to choose our meeting schedule for the summer, and we voted to not have regular meetings and instead participate in community events as they came up. And this was just allowed us to stay engaged in the community.
As for August, when school resumed, so did we, and so we picked right back up at our community projects of community engagement and public health. If you remember from our last quarterly report, we had decided that we would split up our public health into two different subcommittees, being naloxone, which is training on Narcan use and how to go about restricting youth access and youth overdoses. And then also we had our food insecurity and nutrition education public health priority, so we worked on those too. As for our naloxone committee, we were able to organize and implement a naloxone training with officials from the Adams County Health Department. We had about 9 students in attendance, which we were very happy for our first ever training. And although this event did happen in October, a lot of our planning was during August and September, so we took that into account. And then we also hope to plan more of these trainings in the future.
And then for our public health and the food insecurity project, we put together a coloring book for little kids, teaching them about healthy eating habits. And our aim in the next few weeks is to get in contact with local preschools and elementary schools to go in and talk to little kids about the importance of healthy eating and hand out these coloring books. Additionally, we also had a Canned Castle food drive planned for early August going into September, but we decided to postpone the event because it was just coming off a break and we couldn't really push our advertising efforts. So hopefully we're planning to kind of plan this for early next year so then we can really push the advertising and promote it in the community.
As far as our community engagement goes, we were recently able to have Savannah Schifrin from the city of Erie. She is a staff member there who is trying to start their own Erie Youth Council, and so she reached out to our staff liaison, Cassie, with the hopes of getting more information and advice as to how to go about this process. And Cassie was able to connect her with us as a youth commission, and we were able to invite her to one of our meetings. This helped her kind of see the framework of how our commission looks like, what our officer titles are, how we go about each meeting, and then how we delegate responsibilities as well. And we also gave her some tips and tricks as to how to get more members involved, especially since we know how hard it is to kind of get more teenagers involved in civic duties like this. So we were very excited to help her out. And we are always excited to continue getting involved with other youth commissions around Colorado in the future as well. As far as our future plan goes, we, again, as Mira stated, want to have that healthy habits meeting with kids at different preschools. We're in the process of doing a lot of reaching out and communications to set those up. And then we are also planning that Canned Castle drive for early next year. And lastly, we just started gaining submissions for our annual poster contest. If you remember last year, we got about 38 submissions to our youth addiction poster contest to spread awareness on youth addiction and how to overcome that in North Glen, and so we're currently accepting those submissions as of right now.
And then as the year wraps up, we're starting our priority project goal setting for the next year. So we've decided to brainstorm and then kind of set those before we start the new year. Thank you so much. Are there any questions for us tonight?
Councilmember Kondo.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Two things. One, I was just along with the mayor and Mayor Pro Tem in Tampa for the National League of Cities City Summit. And I ran into Councilmember Sean McCoy, Councilmember at Large for the City of Longmont. So we ended up talking about the Youth Council, and of course I ended up bragging about our Youth Council. Longmont has theirs, and I think there's an interest perhaps in collaborating and working together. So I've passed the contact information to Director Peterson. So hopefully you can follow up on that. As you know, I'm kind of the social butterfly of the city. I tend to find people left and right. I do have a question, though, and that is, do you intend on participating in the March event when we go to DC? Okay. Have you all started to think about what your messaging will be in view of the fact that we'll have a new representative at the federal level?
Yeah, so we've started like the process. So how we do it is like people that are interested will apply, and then our staff liaisons will choose the top 3 of those. So that will be happening, I guess we'll know mid-December who will be attending the conference. So then once we know who those people are, then early next year we're planning to start kind of working on that messaging and what kind of we want to work on there.
Okay, gotcha. Well, I look forward to, hopefully, if the council will allow me to travel to DC with you all. So always a great opportunity to see you all in action. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's so great to see both of you. Thanks for being here. I just wanted to say I'm really glad to hear that you're continuing that youth addiction contest with the poster. You had such incredible feedback and turnout last year. Seems like it was just yesterday. So continue up with the good work. Really happy to hear that. And then just one thing I wanted to follow up on is that I know there was some possible collaboration with the Department of Health and them forming a youth advisory council. And I know they were looking at North Glen Youth Commission as kind of, I want to say leaders, because I'm also going to brag on you guys. Has there been any updates in terms of movement? I know things move slowly and they're in the process.
I don't think that we've gotten any communication from that group in specific, but I do know that when our officials from the Adams County Health Department came to do the naloxone training, we did hear back about more interest to get involved with us in the future, so we're hoping that's a possible avenue.
Okay, great. Well, I'm sure they could learn a lot from you all, so thank you for everything you do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. No more hands are up. But I appreciate every time you give us your update. You're doing such great work. And as you can tell, we love your representation of the city. So thank you.
Thank you.
It was nice
Thank
to
you
see
so
you.
much. Have a good night.
Moving into council communications, I will start with Councilmember Walker.
Oh, thank you, Mayor. The Legislative Committee met. It's still very early in the session, but some of the topics that are coming up, of course, are land use and law enforcement. Nothing major on law enforcement yet, no details, but there are 2 possible land use bills. I'll give you some of the details. I don't have much on it, but some of them include some regulations on modular homes, and they're looking to put in regional codes that obviously preempt local controls. So we probably know where all those bills are going, but we'll keep you guys updated on that. Just some other updates from the Capitol. There's a budget shortfall, so that may slow down some of the ideas from our new legislators. And then you guys should be, so we're still putting the final touches on the new legislative guide. Incorporates some nice images from the cities too, and some of our updated positions. So that is all I have for tonight.
Thank you. Councilmember Burns.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think we just heard a beautiful update from our Youth Commission, so I won't report out on that. Lots of exciting things happening. I missed CCPP because I had COVID. So super fun. The whole family, we are, on the up and up. And I just wanted to send a message to our community. Like I think we said earlier on this evening during proclamations that North End will continue to be representative of everyone here, and this is a safe city for everybody. We intend to continue to represent everyone, no matter what, here, And I think we do a really good job of that now, and we will continue to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Looks like Ward 2 is not here tonight. I will start with Councilmember Goff.
Thank you, Mayor. So let's see. On November 6th, the Colorado Communities for Climate Action Legislative Committee met, and similar to what Councilmember Walker was saying, there's a lot of concerns about the budget and the budget shortfall and how the state's going to try to figure out how to fund everything. One of the pieces of legislation that CC4CA will be working on again this session is some kind of funding for vulnerable road users, which is people walking and on bicycles. And so that would be looking at safety features like crosswalks and other such things. So they'll be looking at ways to at least give local municipalities the ability to raise funds to do that. Then let's see, November 13th, I met with several members of Adams County and some of our staff as well to discuss Pride in particular, but also other events this summer so that we don't have things happening all on the same day. And I will say that at this point, it looks like North Glen will have our Pride event on June 7th. And then there were some opportunities to look at doing some things, supporting each other in some of these events. November 14th, I went to North Glen High School to give some feedback on the problem-based learning projects that the students there do. It's always a fun thing. And this time, I even managed to drag my husband along because it was a topic he was interested in, which is Broomfield discovered some dinosaur footprints and fossils along one of their trails. And so they asked the students at North Glen High School if they could come up with some ideas of how to protect those fossils and what their ideas were to educate the community to not damage them. Let's put it that way. So those were really interesting. Then November 15th, which is this last Friday, the DICE board had an all-day workshop. So very intense, but very helpful. I think we learned a lot that we can bring forward as we go into our next year. And then kind of along the lines of Councilmember Burns, I just wanted to let people know that the Transgender Awareness Month proclamation is not just words. It is something that I know I personally have a lot of support for. I have a transgender daughter. She doesn't want any special privileges or be treated special. She just wants to be treated with respect like everyone else. And I think that that's one of our goals as a city, to have a community that supports everyone and makes everyone feel safe and welcoming. It's really important to, I think, our whole city council. Anyway, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Kondo.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As you may have heard, mentioned this earlier, that the mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and myself attended the National League of Cities City Summit in Tampa. And for those of you who are not aware of what National League of Cities is, it's not the Justice League, but it is an advocacy group for some 42,000 cities, towns, and villages across our nation. And basically, they are there to create a critical mass to look after within the Beltway at DC things that are at a federal level that would be of interest, and act in our interest, rather, as towns and cities at the federal level. And even though there was only 3 of us there, I do want to point out that here we have 2 other of our council members who were featured last year in Atlanta, council members Nowicki and Megan Burns. So congratulations for the shameless promotion there of NLC. There's a copy for you.
Oh, thank you.
Learned a lot. I'm not going to spend tonight talking in great detail, but I believe we're going to have some debrief sessions with staff to pass along what we learned. I'm also happy to announce that as part of Dr. Cog, which I represent the city of North Glen on, I was elected to be one of 4 board members to be on the newly formed decarbonization group. Actually, it's a very long acronym, which I'm not going to try and explain to you all, but basically it will provide oversight in the administration and planning for the distribution of nearly $200 million of EPA grant monies over the next 5 years. My appointment will be for 1 year, obviously, and I think it's great that we are being very much involved and on the pointy end of the sphere, so to speak. I say that from a military standpoint, on the pointy end, leading this initiative. So, again, thank you to staff, and we hope to do a lot of great things here. Lastly, I do want to thank staff, American Legion 22, for the wonderful Veterans Day Memorial event that we just had across the street here. In fact, I'm looking at the Veterans Memorial as we speak. This year's Veterans Memorial is especially a poignant and memorable one for me, as I had to bury one of my shipmates that week prior. He was a submariner. He was my best friend on the boat, Captain Al Brady, and he died of stage 4 pancreatic cancer. And so to speak at his funeral as the eulogist, and then, of course, to say a few words, and thank you, Madam Mayor, for allowing me to do that at the Veterans Day event, was really quite an honor and a privilege for me. With that, I turn over the floor.
Thank you. Councilmember Roper.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have a few things to report out on. First, we had our Parks and Recreation Board this past week. We are working on approving the vendor applications and getting those vendor applications and setting vendor policy for the summer events that are coming up. Also, be on the lookout for Playbook will be coming back to us for our approval. And then along with that work, they've already have implementation plans ready to begin work right away, which is exciting. There was some update to the surveillance coverage around the rec center and also the Civic Center campus, which just will increase a safer experience here for our residents and just more coverage available to provide that safety for folks. We also had our Historic Preservation Commission. They are working on a plaque at the entrance of Deza Estates neighborhood and really will signify just its historic designation and let people know when they're coming into the neighborhood. Also, mark your calendars for Old Fashioned Christmas at Stonehawker, December 7th and 8th, and that's from 10 to 4. We're going to have amazing holiday music, bake sale. Santa will be there for pictures, so everyone come on down. It's going to be an amazing time. Let's see, what else? Oh, I also attended the Veterans Day Memorial, and just how amazing it was to see our veterans honored here in our community and abroad. Both of my grandfathers served in World War II, one in Pearl Harbor and one at the Battle of the Bulge, and my son was able to come and attend the event, and just having a conversation with him. You know, if you have young people in your life, often their faces are behind a screen, and so it was a great opportunity to open up that conversation with him about what it means to be a veteran and really to fight for our country. So that was kind of special. In the wake of everything with Adams 12 and the mill levy that did not pass and the different things that are coming out, and with the government's budget being proposed, one thing I want to just encourage everyone to educate themselves on is in his proposed budget, he is seeking to do away with the averaging for school district declining enrollment, which for Adams 12 in North Glen, that would be $13 million deficit for our students, and that's going to be huge and really end up penalizing our students and staff. So that is something we are going to be encouraging that he takes a look at again. I want to echo Councilmember Burns and Councilmember Goff, just the importance of the proclamations we heard earlier, and really, you know, we talk about safety and welcoming, that we want North Glen to be a welcoming place, and I would almost say we need to take it a step further. Everyone is wanted here. You are wanted to be a part of our community, and in listening to the different proclamations that were made, what's at the center of each one of them was the humanity and dignity, whether you are responding to a crisis or whether you are just wanting to show up as your unique self. That it's important to keep that in mind. And that is all for me.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Very well said. Okay, so quite a few things. We had Veterans Day in between there, so it seems like we've had a gap. I would be remiss to ignore that we had an amazing business appreciation event on October 29th that I know all of us attended. I know there's a lot going on. And just because we just had the proclamation, Shop Small and Small Business, Saturday, I just wanted to acknowledge that. It was an incredible event. We have some amazing businesses. I mean, before you look elsewhere, look here in Northglenn. We've got the Painted Boutiques that have a variety of great shops and apparently great pastries and all kinds of fun stuff that you can find locally. So please, 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 please appreciate our small business and shop local. On the 29th, I attended the Family Justice Center Service Delivery and Operations Work Group. For those of you that don't know, the 17th is trying to set up a family justice center, and we're all actively involved in making sure that happens. It's quite the endeavor. But I do have some good news. I was asked to be a co-chair on one of the committees, the Community Engagement and Education Committee. So very honored to be a part of that and to have Northglenn have that voice on that committee and help in the setting up of this Family Justice Center. On October 31st, the Vail Board met a special meeting, and we approved $25,000 for Project Safeguard, which operates in the Rose Andom Center, which is a family justice center, sort of what we're trying to set up here in the 17th. And they provide legal services to victims of abuse. They provide very important services and advocacy. So very, very happy that we were able to do that, and we had the funds to do that this year. As Councilmember Kondo relayed Veterans Day ceremony, I also have many family members that have served in everything from Revolutionary War, World War I, to Desert Storm being the most recent. So thank you to all our veterans. Thank you there's not even words enough. That doesn't even cover it. And my condolences, Councilmember Kondo, for your friend. As Councilmember Kondo reported out, I was also at the National League of Cities. There's absolutely so much to report that there's not enough time to do that, and we will debrief with staff. But the gamut of subjects were so interesting, and AI kind of weaved its way through the entire conference. AI is the future in policing. AI is the future in traffic control. AI is the future in managing all of these things that cities need to manage. And so I had asked the city manager if I could request a study on AI, but apparently that is already something that is in the works and part of our strategic planning. So City Manager Geyer, if you want to add to that, that would be great.
Certainly, Mayor Pro Tem Lukeman Hiramasa, what I had shared with her is that we did include development of an AI policy in the strategic plan, I believe, in 2025. That draft plan document will come to council on December 9th for review. And so certainly this item, as well as all the other ideas and initiatives underway that staff included in the document, you'll see as part of that packet.
Thank you. And I know that's definitely something we've all communicated about as well. Something that piggybacks on what Councilmember Goff said is there's actually technology to help with vulnerable road users. It can detect when somebody's crossing a crosswalk and hold the light cycle longer, which has happened with my elderly mother, where the cycle changes and we're stuck in the middle of an intersection. There's still cars going, so the future is pretty interesting, and technology is the way. And then the very last thing I have is a request from my fellow council members. There are these cool little reusable cards that are one-time use. It has a QR code and it's NFC enabled, so you hold it against the phone and your information pops up. We get boxes and boxes of paper cards that we use. So this would replace and probably save a lot of money. It's sustainable. Nobody likes to have the million cards that we have. This conference was an example. So many cards, I don't know what to do with them, so I take pictures. So if you all are interested in maybe finding out more a little bit, I've had this for about 5 years. It's not new. You tap it and your information appears, or they can scan the QR code, maybe into looking as to what this could look like for us. And there's no rush in that, of course, whenever staff has time. Is that okay? Okay, cool. That is all I have. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Okay, well, there's a downside to going last because they've covered all the cool things. I'm going to try to add a little personal spin to some of the same ideas. One, starting with Veterans Day, I want to send a thank you to staff. They put on a very professional and just a beautiful event that really honors our veterans. I think we had more people than we've had in a few years, and it was lovely. But this year, there was a new piece. The speakers, they added 3 additional currently serving service members, and that we have not done before. We've had veterans that were no longer serving speaking, and that's always lovely to hear from our veterans. But to have 3 younger voices to come to the podium and speak about their why was really powerful, and it was a nice twist. So I appreciated that. We did have a fantastic business appreciation event, but again, kudos to staff. Allison and her team knocked it out of the park. It was beautiful. It had a fun theme to go through and see the little teeny touches. You could really tell how much thought and planning went into it. And it was a beautiful event that, again, really celebrated our businesses, especially those that were nominated. So that was an exciting thing. Metro Mayor's Caucus Executive Committee met. We're looking at our priorities and our path forward, and that's just really good work on that committee. I know there were some council members that attended a tour at the Rose Andom Center, which is a domestic abuse treatment center in Denver. And while I didn't get to go to the tour, I did get to attend their fundraiser, which was really helpful. I was happy to donate to the cause, but also learn more about it from their staff directly, and it was a lovely evening on top of it. On October 31st, we had a significant tragedy in our city, and that was really, really hard. And so I want to say thank you to our police department. I know Chief May is here, but that was a hard night for our staff and our community, and the way that everyone stepped up, whether it was a sworn staff member or a non-sworn staff member, it was very impressive, and I appreciated it greatly. It was hard, and then a couple days later, I hosted my mayor's mingle, a little coffee at the community room, and a special thank you to Commander Rice for being there and being able to answer the questions of our community, because that was a packed event. It was a packed community room. And quite a few Ward 4 members had questions about safety, and Commander Rice did a great job of answering those questions, putting the community at ease. And then the department went back out and had a community event specifically in that area. And that was an additional touch that I think was just really, really appreciated. I know by all of council, but certainly by me, it was lovely. So thank you, Chief May, and your team. And then the governor came to visit. I think we all forgot. We've been so busy. We did not forget, but it was lovely to host the governor and his staff on November 30th, I believe. And he came 29th, maybe. I don't know. And he came and got a tour of our beautiful building, because it is, again, first of its kind in the state, and it was really important to kind of show it off. So it was nice to have him here. And then upcoming, I'm looking very forward to the North Glen Youth Theater 30th Anniversary Gala, which is coming up this Saturday. So a lot to celebrate in our city, even amidst some of the hard things. So turning it over to our City Clerk Small. Do you have any updates tonight?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I do not have any updates tonight.
Okay. City Manager Guyer.
Thank you, Mayor. One update for you and council this evening. Director Peterson and I attended the Rocky Mountain Partnership luncheon that was rescheduled to last Thursday due to inclement weather the week prior. And at this luncheon, Honorable Don Quick, former DA and retired Chief Judge of the 17th Judicial District, awarded several challenge coins to agencies and cities. So the city received a Founding Partners 2011 Adams County Youth Initiative Challenge coin, which I will hand to our city clerk to share with you, in recognition for being a founding member. So we were one of several cities that received that recognition. And then I received a challenge coin for serving on the Community Leadership Council. So just thought I'd share that with all of you. And I will try to send an email by the end of the week with a couple other updates related to initiatives, new initiatives that they have underway. Thank you.
Thank you. City Attorney Hoffman?
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of council. I do not have any reports tonight.
Cool. Okay, great. Deputy City Manager Loveland, do you have anything? How about a financial report for September?
Good evening, Mayor and members of council. I do have something. You keep inviting me back, so I keep sending. Oops. Ta-da. Third quarter update. So we're 75% of the way through the year. I'll start off with an update on sales and use tax. The Small Business Saturday conversation was appropriate for this update. One of the things that I'll get to here in a moment, but collections, sales and use tax are up just under 5%, 4.9%. It's the dark blue line, trending at the top of the chart. So year-to-date collections of $20.2 million, that's up about $1 million if we quantify the 4.9%. I think that's helpful. Within the sales and use tax number, sales tax is up 6.9%, food tax is up 6.1%, and then dragging it down a little bit is auto use tax, which is down 9.3%. On page 11 of the report, not in the slides that I'm going through tonight, the tax by geographic area collected, so kind of this small business Saturday theme here. The areas within the city are actually doing really well. We're at 6% growth year over year, which is fantastic. So that doesn't mean don't go shop small, but just keep shopping small, I guess is what I wanted to mention. The online sales tax that you would, that's up over 16%. So again, changes in consumer habits continue. Online sales are really a driving force for our community and many others throughout the country. Marijuana tax, that is down 6.1% year to date. It's the dotted line that is all over the board. As you can see there, kind of trending at the bottom if we just kind of leveled that out to a certain degree. You'll see the peak in 2020 and 2021, the time of COVID. We're actually down 20%, however, from 2019. So kind of when we reflect back, 2019 was kind of the peak stabilized year before kind of the spike. So we're down 20% from that period. And then from the peak in 2021 through this time, we're down 30%. But overall, kind of try to normalize it a little bit back to 2019. And again, just the marijuana tax being down 6.1% this year, but then 20% over the last 5-year period. Moving along to the various funds. A lot of numbers on these. Collection rate or spending rate on the far right-hand side. Those percentages across all of the funds that I'm going to go through are really in line with kind of comparative years and periods. So 68, to 90% collection rate on revenues. But in the general fund, total revenues through September are at $27.2 million. Which is a collection rate of 71%. Right on track. We'll do more revenue collections during the holiday season to pick up the taxes that you can see as a collection rate of 67%. On the expenditure side, $27.4 million. Again, biggest takeaway here is everything falling in line with budget on the operations side of things through personnel, purchase services, and the various expenditure accounts listed there. So nothing major to report really in any of the funds. Just going to go through this quickly. In the Conservation Trust Fund, again, the revenue is from lottery proceeds, $389,000, expenditures of $161,000. On the expenditures, Park Pavilion replacement is kind of the big project. You can see more details on page 20 of the detailed report of what's going on there. We're not going to hit that budget number of $1.5 million. Those funds will carry over as their one-time projects. And so while we're not hitting that mark for this year's budget, that money will carry over to the next year for those other projects. Similarly, in the Capital Projects Fund, on the expenditure side, we're at $20 million of expenditures of the $36 million budget. The majority of that is the City Hall. About $14 million associated with City Hall and the Civic Campus in general. $1 million for residential street programs and $1.8 million for Kiwanis Pool make up the majority of that $20 million. Revenues at $8.3 million. Again, this revenue stream comes from sales and use tax, the special marijuana tax, and then two shared taxes, Adams County Open Space and Adams County Transportation Tax, all in line with what we would expect through September. The next fund, the Water Fund, total revenues of $11.2 million, expenditures of $15.4. We'll report that consumption is up 18.7% from the prior year. Again, the prior year at this time, consumption was down 22%. So seeing a little bit of conservation in consumption overall, comparing year over year. All expenditures are in line with the budget. The majority of the capital outlay expenditure of $9.8 million, $6 million is associated with the Section 36 water line acquisition, and also some spending on the automated filter backwash program at the water plant. So all things that make the water cleaner and more efficient for us to operate. So moving to the wastewater fund, total revenues of just under $4.6 million and expenditures of $2.4. No anomalies on the revenue or expenditure side on this. More detail on the capital outlay on this is on page 24. The $430,000, the majority of that is either actual capital equipment or a project that we have, the odor control project out at the wastewater plant. Next fund, the Stormwater Fund, $359,000 in revenue, $135,000 of expenses. The majority of the projects on the expenditure side is the citywide system study and analysis and cleaning of the stormwater system. We'll expect to see those expenditures catch up over the next couple of months as they're wrapping up that project. And then on the sanitation side of things, revenues of $1.4 million and the same number on the expenditure side. Both collection and spending rates in line with what we would expect. Expenditures a little bit low due to the delivery time of vehicles, which I think we have talked about over the past several years, that we have vehicle purchases that take a long time to get delivered. So we're running a little bit low on that, but again, we'll expend those funds at some point. So quick summary, sales tax year over year is up just under 7%. General fund revenue, kind of our main operating revenue source for revenue in the general fund, is up just over 9%. Property tax collected, when we did the assessed valuation, we knew that those revenues would be up about 12 to 15%. And overall operating expenditures and our capital expenditures are in line with the budget. Happy to answer any questions.
Councilmember Kondo.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First of all, thanks for responding to my email question. Appreciate that. Kind of curious on page 23, when you're looking at the marketplace sales tax revenues, I was wondering if that noticeable bump that we're seeing now in 2024 is in part attributed to the Prost business, AKA the Prost effect?
The Prost effect. Yes.
Wow, I think that's the briefest answer I've ever received. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that has driven traffic, and the business itself is doing well, and so yeah, it is having an effect for sure, a positive effect.
Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate the update. We will now do the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve consent agenda.
Second.
Please open the vote.
The vote is open.
Please vote.
I will close that vote, and the consent agenda passes unanimously.
We have a public hearing tonight, CB 2024. Comments are limited to 5 minutes per speaker. Will the city clerk please read the title?
A bill for an ordinance adding section 11-7-7 to Article 7 of Chapter 11 of the North Glen Municipal Code regarding housing occupancy limits.
I will now open the public hearing on CB 2024. Is there anyone who would like to speak either for or against CB 2024? Is there anyone on the phone who would like to speak about CB 2024? You can unmute yourself by pressing *6 at this time. Hearing none, I will close the public hearing. Ordinances on second reading, CB 2024, Unified Development Ordinance Amendment, Housing Occupancy Limits. Is there a motion to approve on second reading?
Move for approval.
Seconded.
Director of Planning and Development, Brooks Svoboda, will provide a summary of this item. Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This ordinance tonight is in opposition of and asserting our home rule authority based on the bill, House Bill 24-1007, as it relates to defining the definition of family under our land use code. And so what we are effectively doing is asserting that our local control supersedes this legislative amendment that was passed earlier this year, and that we would be essentially upholding our current definition, as well as identifying that our legislation is a matter of local control versus state control.
Any questions for our director? No? Thank you very much. Please open the vote.
The vote is open.
Please vote.
I will close that vote, and CB 2024 on second reading passes unanimously.
Our first resolution tonight, CR 164. Will the clerk please read the title?
A resolution accepting grant funding and approving an intergovernmental agreement between the City of North Glen and Adams County regarding disbursement of American Rescue Plan Act coronavirus state and local fiscal recovery funds.
Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Crisis Response Unit Program Manager Jessica Hulse is here to provide a summary of this item. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council.
This is the grant that I have talked about in my last presentation to you, and it is coming from Adams County Public Health Department. They solicited applicants from different co-responder units across Adams County, and we were awarded one of the grants. The grant would cover 2 additional FTEs through the end of 2026, and those positions would be used to cover a weekend shift as well as provide a case manager for the crisis response unit. The funds would also cover a secure transport vehicle as well as some additional training for the crisis response unit.
Any questions? Councilmember Kondo?
Yes, just one question. First of all, bravo for securing this grant.
Thank you.
I'm just curious, right? So cities were supposed to spend COVID money by 2024. Did counties have a longer
Yes,
deadline?
they have a second tranche of ARPA funding that the county held onto and then created different funding opportunities for people to apply for. Heather, do you know any additional information? Sure.
So this is for the county's sake. This is putting their dollars under contract by the end of 2024, and so that's why they were able to extend the spending. So total spending needs to be done by 2026, and for us or anybody under contract, and so that's why they're able to extend this program out.
Okay, thank you.
I don't see any other hands, so thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Please open the vote.
The vote is open.
Please vote.
I will close that vote, and CR 164 passes unanimously.
CR 172, will the clerk please read the title?
A resolution approving an agreement between the City of North Glen and Ideal Fencing Corps LLC for the high zone and low zone fence replacement project.
Move for approval.
Second.
Our Director of Public Works, Sarah Borgers, will provide a summary. Welcome.
Mayor and Council, good to see you. This one's pretty straightforward. We have a fence around both of our tank sites that's rusted, not aesthetically pleasing, and we also have some room to improve security. So this would be a project to fix that or replace that fence. It's with Ideal Fencing, and the contract amount is for $124,900 with a 10% contingency requested.
Thank you. Councilmember Goff?
Thank you, Mayor. So my question is, these are the water tanks that are up on the hill by the Justice Center. So how does that, fenced off pile of dirt come into play here? Is that just a completely different fencing, or what, do you know?
I'm trying to envision where you're talking about.
Okay, well, where the Odell Berry Park is going to be, the city has stored dirt from this construction site. So, and it is fenced off, so I just was wondering if,
what happens with that. I am going to have to get back to you on that because I need to wrap my brain around exactly where you're talking about.
Okay, all right, thank you.
I can help address that question, Councilmember Goff.
Sure.
So we can come back to you with more specific information, but that pile of dirt still exists in the fenced-off shape it is, condition rather, because we may be using some of that dirt for the Civic Campus site. So I will work with Sarah to get an updated timeline of when dirt may be moving from one location to the next. I know we've received a couple complaints about that site through Councilmember Kondo and yourself. And so we have been in communication with a resident who lives nearby about that particular dirt pile and the plans for it. So we'll go ahead and get an update and send that out to council this week.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that this new fencing that we're getting isn't like, we're not spending money to replace that temporary fencing around the dirt.
No,
Okay.
that fence will go away at some point along with a good amount of the dirt.
All right.
We may use some of the dirt, I think, for this project again and maybe a couple other projects. So we'll close the loop on that.
All right, thank you. And thank you.
See any other questions? Thank you. Please open the vote.
The vote is open.
Please vote.
I will close that vote, and CR 172 passes.
Thank you. We have one discussion item tonight, Climate Action and Resilience Plan. Our Sustainability Coordinator, Mara Owens, is here. Hi.
Hello. Good evening.
you.
I'm actually here just to do an introduction, so good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm really pleased to introduce Sarah Kay and Shelby Summers from our Brendel Group, consultants. They are fantastic in helping us with the Climate Action and Resilience Plan. They'll get into the purpose and some of the other pieces, but we are here for questions as we go forward, so happy to introduce them.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thanks for having us here again today, and it's good to see you all. I believe there's a presentation that goes along with this.
Sorry, I got you. And you have a little, sorry, I did not give you any. There you are.
Apologies for that. Thank you. All right. Well, as Mara mentioned, we're really here to get your feedback today. The objective is to share with you where we're at in terms of developing the framework for North Glen's Climate Action and Resilience Plan, including the plan-wide vision, our greenhouse gas goal, our approach for developing a resilience goal, and then our topic area objectives and solutions. The agenda has discussion at the end, but if you review the slides ahead of time, you'll see that we're actually just going to intersperse discussion throughout so that as topics are fresh on your mind, you can provide your feedback to us. So some of the things we're going to be asking you about today is whether or not you support some of these draft elements or if you have feedback that you'd like us to incorporate before we bring this to its next iteration. So that includes, as I mentioned, all of these on the last slide. And then we're also going to provide a brief introduction to our greenhouse gas modeling and how we're approaching that modeling. And so if you have any feedback for how you'd like to refine that, we can incorporate that as well. Just wanted to touch quickly again on the planning process overview. So a reminder that this kicked off back in April. We came to you all in August with that plan process update. What is this plan about? Why should you be excited about it? And we're here today to get that feedback. But then looking forward, we're going to be meeting again with staff in December, January to refine some of the prioritized actions for the plan, presenting a full draft of the plan to the Sustainability Committee in January, and then having a celebratory event with the community in February to essentially help us launch the plan into action. So really trying to focus this to be not just a plan that sits on a shelf, but to catalyze some action within the community, acknowledging that it doesn't just take action here in this room, but it takes the action of our businesses and the residents in the city of North Glen. And then we'll come back to council in March for your review of the full plan and to share back any of the feedback we got from the larger community and hopefully for adoption and approval in April. I'm going to pass it over to my colleague Shelby to chat a little bit about the plan framework and vision.
Okay. Thanks, Sarah. Good evening, everyone. So the plan framework, this should be somewhat familiar to all of you. You probably saw this past summer. So we're going to work this evening just layer by layer through this framework. We're going to skip over the actions and metrics. We want to make sure we have the sort of guiding direction for the plan framework kind of aligned correctly. And then the coming months will focus more specifically on the actions and metrics. So starting with the vision, this is kind of the overarching direction, guiding ethos of how to approach climate action. It kind of describes the end state, how to make decisions, how to guide the work moving forward. Sarah's going to talk about the goals in a few minutes. We've got a set of goals that are kind of sequenced over the years to really drive us towards that vision. And then we have a series of topic areas. These are kind of the chapters. It's just a way to organize things. We've been playing with different permutations, and we'll talk through those today. And then nested under each of the topic areas are a series of solutions. These are the big ideas, the kind of big levers that you can pull to help advance the goals. So starting with the plan vision, again, this is sort of an ethos, the desired end state. And so you can see a number of words here on the screen. These are words that were collected through community engagement with the staff and working group meetings, and so we've been refining this as we go. I won't read everything on this slide to you, but you can see some of the key words here around being aspirational, positive, looking at sort of what can be done locally in the context of the state, nation, and global climate issues. Inspiring. We want this to be something that uplifts the community and really motivates change. Integrated yet strategic. These might seem at odds, but really integrated is making sure that climate action comes up in daily city business and conversations and decision makings, while also being focused on what's most important and not trying to do everything all at once. Regional alignment is very important. There's a lot of momentum happening with Energize Dr. Cog, as you heard earlier, as well as many other efforts, and at least kind of paddling in the same direction with your regional neighbors. Inclusive and just also go hand in hand, where making sure that those who are most impacted by climate change stand to benefit the most, and bringing all folks along on this journey. So as I mentioned, we went through various iterations and had a polling session with staff. By and large, lots of directional alignment with this vision, some suggestions for refinement, and also just some acknowledgement that this is aspirational. It's a vision. Some of these things around behavior change and community engagement are hard. That makes them worthwhile and something to keep aspiring for. So I'll pause here and see, are there any immediate reactions to the draft vision or any course corrections that you want to elevate this evening? Okay, we'll move it on to the next layer with the goals.
All right, so if I remember last time correctly, I think this will be an area of interest to you all. We're going to be talking about some of the data, some of the modeling. So I want to talk first about how we set these plan-wide goals. Well, first and foremost, they need to be in line with our vision. They need to help us measure what those specific words in our vision are. And in Northglen's RFP, you mentioned we want SMART goals. They need to be specific and measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. And we added the SMART-er, so evaluating and readjusting as needed. I'm sure you have all experienced that the climate action space is changing very rapidly. Commissioner Kondo, with your work on Decarbonize Dr. Cog, you're at the front lines of experiencing all of that. And so there needs to be a process for being able to adjust these goals over time as we experience these technological shifts. So that's what we want the goal to be, but how do we go about setting that SMART or smarter goal? And when it comes to emissions reduction, we're really looking at balancing this top-down and bottom-up approach. And so top-down is essentially, what's our aspiration? Where do we want to be? And a good way to think about this is thinking about some benchmark communities that we respect or want to be aligned with. What are they doing? And maybe that's kind of the level of aspiration we want to achieve. But then top-down is really contextualizing it to Northglen. What can we do? And what can we really expect if we have X amount of staff time and Y amount of dollars? Is that going to get us to that top-down goal? And then we balance those two directions until they can kind of meet in the middle. So to get us started on a conversation around top-down goals, we took a look at some potential examples that we've seen floating around. So City of Thornton being kind of a nearby community, they have a goal of 50% below 2018 by 2030. And then all the way down the list to the City of Boulder, who I'm sure it's no surprise has some fairly ambitious goals related to climate change and just trying to look for some themes. So one thing we saw is there's a range of ambition. There's no right answer. We need to pick something that feels right for Northglen. But we are seeing this movement toward net zero at some point. So getting back to that, acknowledging the global crisis and that we all need to be moving in the same direction. And then some alignment around setting maybe some more ambitious interim goals and then easing up over time to allow the electricity grid to help us along with that grid decarbonization. So we asked the public, we asked city staff, what matters to you, and some of the feedback we got is that aligning with the state feels comfortable. We want that regional alignment, and it could unlock some funding opportunities. We want to acknowledge, though, what needs to get done to avoid the worst impacts of climate change, but at the same time, we don't want to disenfranchise people by setting goals that are just not realistic, and that as we measure over time, we're seeing these huge gaps. So what you see here is the business as usual forecast, which we presented back to you in August, and so the different colored bars are are an estimate of North Glen's emissions over time from 2016 to 2050. Overall, like we discussed last time, just by doing nothing, we expect to see about a 40% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions. But of course, that falls short of North Glen's current greenhouse gas goal, which has a reduction of 90% by 2050. Since we were hearing support for regional alignment, we overlaid the state of Colorado goals there to see how that compared. And then what we call a science-based target, which is essentially each community's fair share of greenhouse gas emission reduction to in alignment with achieving avoiding the worst impacts of climate change. So we reviewed this with staff, and they essentially suggested, why don't we try and meet in the middle and say, hey, we acknowledge it might be difficult to shift from where we are right away. So can we stay in alignment with our current North Glen goals, but then move to become more aggressive and align with the state goals moving forward, and then shift that final out goal of 2050, 90% by 2050 to 100% by 2050. So what you're looking at here is your existing goal in the dotted gray line, the Colorado state existing goal in the dotted gray middle line, and then kind of this proposed framework where we're going to acknowledge what it's going to take from that science-based target. But the goal for this plan is this rooted but ambitious goal that says, let's lay a foundation over this next short term and then really start to pick up the pace as technology catches up and as we see more opportunities. Now, I'm going to switch over to our next slide to talk about the bottom-up modeling. But one thing we noticed right away is that when we modeled some of the solutions that we feel are reasonable for the city of North Glen, we feel that your reduction potential is actually below your current 2030 goal. And so we may move forward recommending a slightly lower 2030 target to acknowledge the work that is anticipated to be put in over the next 5 or 10 years. So how are we approaching this modeling? Well, really, we're modeling two different scenarios, right? One is the primary goal for this plan, which is the ambitious but rooted scenario. And it's really looking at the high impact action areas that North Glen also has a greater sphere of influence over. I believe it was Commissioner Kondo or perhaps Commissioner Burns who brought up at the last meeting, well, what about transportation? There's so much transportation that comes through the city of North Glen that we don't have much control over. And so this scenario is intended to acknowledge what you do have control over, which is providing transportation choices to your residents, to your businesses, to reduce vehicle miles traveled. Whereas the science-based target is really focusing on going all in as quickly as you can to achieve those reductions. And so what we're starting to see through this modeling is that the science-based target is really more of a math exercise. What would it take to get there? Full disclosure, we shared these slides while we were still in the middle of the modeling, so I'm going to share some updates with you, which is essentially for the science-based target, we're looking at 100% electrification of vehicles in a faster timeline than some of the state goals are setting. We're looking at 100% electrification of our electricity faster than the utilities goals are setting, and so it's moving really quickly. On the ambitious but rooted goal, we're looking at some of the same concepts, so investing in electrification for our buildings, but doing so in a more strategic manner, providing EV options in North Glen, but aligning more with the state's goals. And so you can see the ambitious but rooted goal, the intention is really to use that word strategic again and make sure that we're keeping North Glen within your means while also stretching the community to be inspirational, aspirational. So for the technical feasibility, at least in the short term, we feel that the ambitious but rooted goal has moderate technical feasibility. It's going to take some change, some investment. We haven't done the modeling on that yet. That's what's going to come next, but we think it's feasible, whereas the science-based target, again, it would take some pretty extreme measures to move forward with that. The other thing I'll acknowledge is at this moment in time, we have a pathway to help you achieve those 2030 greenhouse gas reductions in that short-term period. And moving forward, it's going to take some reevaluation to move us down the curve toward that net zero by 2050. So just acknowledging that we may need to revisit these goals and targets over time. So I know that was a lot of information. I will go ahead and pause for your questions.
Councilmember Goff.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for the presentation. I have one, maybe minor question, and then I will make some comments. But back on the slide where you're comparing City of Thornton and whatever other entities, I noticed The state of Colorado says that they're going to be 100% below 2005 by 2050. And the town of Superior says net zero by 2050. What's the difference between a 100% below and net zero, or is there one that you know of?
Yeah, there is a difference, and that's a great question. And so reducing by 100% means just that. You're not producing greenhouse gas emissions, or you've totally reduced those greenhouse gas emissions compared to that baseline, whereas net zero allows for some offsets, some sequestration. And so we are seeing a movement globally to that net zero, just to acknowledge that the return on investment for some of those last carbon emissions can be better to achieve through that carbon offset methodology.
Okay, all right. And then, it looks to me like these are kind of on the analysis of the different scenarios and the strategies. It seems still pretty high level. Is that where we're working today, that just to keep it up at vision level, or?
On the table framework?
Yeah, like the previous slide, I think it is here.
Yeah, so I can share a little bit more detail. So essentially what we've done is we said, if we're going to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, we know where they need to come from. It needs to come from VMT, vehicle electrification. It needs to come from building electrification primarily of your existing building stock, but also of your new builds, and then renewable energy as well, with the vast majority of those reductions coming from existing buildings becoming more efficient and electrified, and reducing vehicle miles traveled. So that's essentially what we're modeling, is different levels of adoption of technology, different levels, how fast can we accelerate EVs in North Glen with various strategies? How fast can we accelerate electrification? And we started with some assumptions. It's just a model, right? So take it with a grain of salt, but we started with assumptions that we feel were well suited for North Glen, and we're looking at peer communities again. So just to provide a specific example, when we're looking at how much can we increase program participation to achieve electrification, we have data for peer communities that are high performing. So we're not looking at 100% uptake, right? We want to know what's actually reasonable and what's been achieved in other communities. So that's what the model is looking at. It's looking at those big levers and then different levels of adoption. When we did that modeling, we didn't get anywhere near the net zero by 2050. And so now we're redoing some of our calculations to say, okay, we have a pathway for reduction for 2030. What targets would we need to keep an eye on for those out years? And again, it's going to require some revisiting.
Mm-hmm. And so then my next question is that the ambitious goal is deep energy retrofits of existing homes, and the science-based one is deep energy retrofits of existing building stock. So the science one is it seems to me more ambitious, because it's talking about all buildings. Am I reading that right?
Yes, and again, this slide was developed before we had finished our modeling, so I would say a more accurate bullet point for each of these, if you can be patient with me while I try and pull this from my brain, would be pretty similar between the two models for your transportation scenario. Really, we're looking at travel choice within North Glen and some regional coordination to reduce VMT. And then when we talk about electrification for ambitious but rooted, we're looking at aligning with the state. And actually, North Glen's been higher than the state in terms of adoption, so that's a pretty reasonable target to achieve over time. For the science-based target, we're looking at accelerating 100% more quickly than is set in any current plans for benchmark. Then we bring that down to the next sector that we want to focus on, which would be existing building stock. And for ambitious but rooted, that looks like increasing the adoption of efficiency and electrification at a rate that is reasonable and not wildly different than we're seeing today. Whereas I believe for the science-based target, it's 5% of your building stock year over year until 2050. Next on and so that addresses both residential and commercial. So that's something that's different from what we're seeing on the slide here. And then new development is pretty much the same across, because you are already on a path to adopting some net zero new development codes, which leaves me to renewable energy. And so on the ambitious but rooted, that scenario is really leaving the greening of the grid to do the bulk of the decarbonization and focusing on renewable energy as a source for resilience. So thinking about microgrids or pairing battery with your rooftop solar. Whereas for the science-based target, we need to be accelerating again beyond the utility. So if I could update these slides with the new information, that would be kind of how I would go through it step by step. Does that help?
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you.
Councilmember Kondo.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So as you notice, I'm a numbers guy, and I struggle when I was reviewing this because it's like, okay, it's okay to have BHAG, the term big, hairy, audacious goals, coined by Jim Collins. But then the issue is, let's say, for example, let's talk about, the electrification of housing. Well, the EPA grant is more or less targeted for low-income disadvantaged communities. So those people that are, obviously below a certain income level. And we only have a certain number of houses in Northglenn that fit that category of LIDAC, to use that acronym. So are we in danger of establishing a goal that may not be reachable because we just don't have enough houses that could be electrified, so to speak?
So for the ambitious but rooted goal, we use those exact numbers that you're talking about. What is the realm of possibility that DRCOG is trying to achieve, and what is the scaled down version that's available in Northglenn of that stock? So basically just taking that percentage and applying it to Northglenn. So I believe that based on that modeling, we're accounting for the total building stock that's available and not overshooting that. And there are some stops in the modeling that would prevent us from suggesting electrifying more of certain types of buildings that are available in the city of Northglenn.
Okay, great. And then the conversation about encouraging consumers to transition to EVs, I'm not sure if that was part of that $200 million EPA grant, but, clearly that's going to be a very steep sort of economic challenge for our residents, where our median income, I believe, if I'm just going to round it off, is about $75,000. I'm not sure if many of our residents can afford a $33,000 or $40,000 EV. So going back to my prior question theme, are we being practical about thinking about how many cars we could actually, or how many residences we can convert over to EVs in view of the economic constraints?
Yeah, that's a great point. So the model is accounting for vehicle turnover, but I hear your point about availability and of low-cost models. And so I think the hope is that the utility programs, that the state programs can come together to help bring down those costs, but that's something that we can explore and take a look back and see, okay, are the numbers making sense for Northglenn?
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Burns?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Sorry, I just raised my hand off of something you said. So is a lot of this modeling based off of perceived grants, tax rebates, that sort of things that currently exist but might not in a couple months?
That's an excellent question, yes.
Cool, just checking.
I don't see any other questions at this time.
May I add one piece? To answer Councilperson Burns' question, so many of the modeling that we have for existing grants does take into fact that the state grants are actually some of the bigger grants for some of the EV, and they are being proposed to continue forward with the Polis administration, and so we do have at least a fair amount there. And we have seen a big increase in a lot of people being able to access EVs. EV vehicles are actually very affordable if you are able to take advantage of both the Excel. There's 2 different state programs that actually are available to 2 of them are only available to low-income and disadvantaged persons, and then there is another state one that is available to anyone. So with those other additions, you can really make it quite affordable, and we're happy to share more numbers on that. But yes.
Thank you. I think that's great. I think I was more thinking of the house retrofitting, water heaters, all of those things that are very popular tax rebates at the moment. I have a client at COP at the moment, so I'm fairly familiar with some of this. So that's maybe just some knowledge that I have that maybe others don't.
100%. One thing that we're really proud of is this. The state of Colorado has some really amazing building retrofit, and Xcel Energy has promised through their clean heat plan to also have some future adoption of additional rebates that we can take advantage of. So we're hoping the state can offset a little.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
All right. Well, my next section is much shorter. We want to talk about resilience goals. And so when we went to staff, we said we're seeing two options for resilience goals. Actually, North Glen has a host of goals related to resilience in your existing plans. And one of our charges was to identify ways to align with the great existing work you have all already been doing. So we identified these two goals, option 1 from your sustainability plan, option 2 from your comprehensive plan. Both of these are qualitative goals. They're not exactly easy to measure. And so when we're thinking about the smarter framework and finding goals that are measurable and specific, we said, well, maybe we should propose an option that is to establish a quantitative goal. We didn't propose a specific methodology, though we suggested some potential avenues for doing so. The image here is from Colorado EnviroScreen, and it's essentially showing an index at the block group level for North Glen. As you can see, though, it's not aligned geographically to the city of North Glen. I've approximated the boundary in a crude red rectangle, and so that's one potential barrier to calculating a quantitative goal, is that there just be some geoprocessing and analysis associated with that. We presented these pros and cons to the working group, and we said, which do you want to align with? And we had a split crowd, and so we had a discussion, and ultimately we said, why not do both? We already have the qualitative goals, so let's keep those and identify a way to measure quantitatively what those are representing. So we're still working on that right now, but that's something you can expect in the future. So I know for our data folks, not a lot to react to there, but just generally asking if you guys agree that it makes sense to move forward with a qualitative approach that aligns with your existing goals and identifying one or more quantitative metrics to go along with that.
Great. Any other? I don't see any hands.
Okay.
Okay.
I am going to hand it over to Shelby for the fun part, which is talking about what's actually going in the plan.
All right.
Okay, so we're moving down a couple layers. We're now going to talk about the topic areas and solutions. Reminder, we're not going to get into the actions and metrics tonight, although we have started to catalog and develop those. So even since we developed these slides, some things have started to shift around just by nature of what makes sense in terms of grouping actions with appropriate solutions under the topic areas. So the topic areas start with an objective. This is just really a statement of the desired outcome. So kind of like a sub-goal. They're not that SMART format. They're just what we're hoping to see over time. And so these were developed through coordination with reviewing existing plans and documents. There's a lot to build on. Also building on the public engagement and feedback so far, looking at best practices and other climate action plans, as well as checking with your staff. Lots of great ideas. And so you can see there are 7 of these topic areas with the associated objectives. So as I go through the next few slides, you'll see the objectives, and then stacked under those are a handful of the solutions. Again, the solutions are the big levers. They're not specific, they're not tactical. They're just kind of these overarching categories to group like actions together. So for example, one of the solutions is around local renewable energy, rooftop renewable energy. So a specific action to support that might be facilitating a group buy for neighborhoods, that sort of thing. So we're not going to get into the actions, but we have started to organize the solutions around potential actions. So we're going to start with the first of the topic areas, and this is really the people-focused one, in my opinion. This is the connected community topic area, and this is really focusing on that adaptation and resilience side of climate action. And so it's focusing on preparedness and making sure that community members have awareness, education, as well as the social infrastructure, that the relationships and the networks and the people who they can call when times are tough to adequately navigate the challenges ahead. It also focuses on city services and making sure those services are reliable and able to withstand disruption. Then we move into the mobility topic area. Again, this is focused on kind of moving people around the community and the region with a focus on both reducing emissions and air quality. They're different things, but very closely related. And so also making sure that transportation is convenient and accessible. So some of the solutions under that focus on reducing just the number of miles that vehicles are traveling in and through North Glen. Also, reducing idling and just, those pollution impacts. And then finally, the low and no emission vehicles and equipment. Again, that's very closely related to air quality. Doesn't have a vehicle miles traveled component, but it does have pretty significant emissions reduction components, especially when we're converting from diesel-based equipment. Next, we have energy supply. This is one of the heavy hitters after mobility as it relates to emissions reduction. And this is focusing on increasing decarbonization of your energy supply. And that includes both electricity and natural gas and other energy sources in the community. You can see the local energy generation and storage, which I talked about. Think of solar gardens or rooftop solar. Participation in programs. So this could be programs offered through your electric utility, or it could be programs offered through like a solar garden subscription. Local energy workforce is paramount to both the energy transition and the building transition. And so we're kind of playing around, where does the energy workforce development support fit? We're kind of leaning towards putting it in the next category of buildings, but would entertain some perspectives on that. And then also, we're hearing that there's a really strong nexus between the grid infrastructure and that renewable energy generation, and pairing the local installation of solar with battery systems is an increasing movement. So we're kind of leaning towards lumping those together as well. Okay. So as I mentioned, buildings and energy go hand in hand. And so this one is really focusing on the performance and comfort of the buildings. And so this relates to both existing buildings, both residential and non-residential, as well as future buildings to be built in the community. And so, as I mentioned, we're also looking at moving the workforce development component here, just because there is a lot of work with trades, contractors, et cetera, to make these buildings more efficient and high performing. And in the home stretch here, we've got the natural systems. Again, this is more on the resilience side of things. There are emissions reduction benefits to some of these, but a lot of them aren't quantified in your current inventory work. But we know that there is inherent value to these, not just from emissions reduction, but also your ability to adapt and respond to future climate impacts. So water conservation, the use of water, as well as where the water comes from, as well as green space and green systems, so trees and natural ways for air quality benefits, shading, cooling, water quality. There are so many things to nest under that one. And then finally, we have food and waste, and this is kind of an in-betweener. There are some emissions reduction benefits associated with the food and waste systems. They're pretty small in comparison to the transportation and buildings and energy sectors, but as those pieces shrink, this becomes more and more important. They're also very visible pieces of climate action in a community. So this one focuses on both reducing waste and consumption, so preventing waste from being generated, as well as thinking through that whole life cycle of materials and diverting from the landfill. And then it kind of brings us full circle back to the human, the connected community topic area, and that food security and health is inherent in having a prepared and resilient community. You need some of these fundamental systems in order to be a resilient community. So with that, we will entertain any questions or suggestions you have as we continue to reorganize these different topic areas, objectives, and solutions.
Thank you. Councilmember Goff?
Thank you. So once again, kind of maybe a minor question, but back on your first slide about connected community of the whatever goals or whatever. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we've got advanced climate advocacy, and I'm just wondering, is that the city becoming more of an advocate, or are we trying to educate our residents to be advocates?
It's likely both. I know you have a role with CC4CA, and there is a strong role of the city in kind of a united voice, a collective action on this, but there's also individual advocacy is important, not just above the city, but for community members to come to this body and have their voices heard. So it's a little bit of both.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Councilmember Condo?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So I'm just wondering, obviously we have we have Mara in place now for, I think, 15 or 18 months now. But I feel like as you have started this work, have you kind of looked at the history of what we've been doing in connection or through the lens of our strategic plan? So we had our 5-year, I see north-south nod, so it looks like you've looked at our last strategic plan that ended in 2023.
Yeah. Sarah and I were just looking at it earlier today, and we see that it's in progress, and so I'm familiar. We haven't done an extensive cross-check, but as we do the action development, that's on our radar.
Because I see some things here in all these various topic areas where we have, in a not terribly unified sort of approach, tried different things, whether it's trying to move towards EV city vehicles or the waste optimization plan. And some of these things we've considered and we've acted on. Others we've decided to put on a parking lot. So in my mind, I'm just thinking to myself, we have now or will soon have our next 5-year strategic plan. So my question is, this resiliency plan, how do we tick and tie it together with the strat plan so there's alignment and there's a very clear way forward as to where we're going to put resources to be able to pay for all this stuff, because it's not free.
Yeah, it's a great question. And as a student of public administration, I love the question and the challenge. I think, as you can imagine, if we start building out all of the different actions under each of these solutions, we get a huge web of different activities. And so we do need to prioritize. And so I think having the strategic plan as a filter for prioritizing will be really valuable, helpful for our team to be doing that. But ultimately, we will need to make some decisions about what is kind of most impactful in terms of achieving or helping directionally point us towards the goals, as well as those co-benefits that are going to be valuable to the community. So we're going to be evaluating the actions for, how much do they support the different goals, what are the co-benefits, as well as looking at the estimated return on investment. So, is it a low return on emissions reduction, high investment of staff or city resources? Probably not going to make it to the priority list. Doesn't mean we're going to delete it from the plan, because, sometimes just things emerge and it's helpful to have it in this framework of a plan. But we're envisioning getting down to a much more manageable number of priority actions.
Okay, thank you. And then one follow-up question. The whole thing about alternative energy, and I know that you were mentioning primarily solar and wind, and you heard me talk about the National League of Cities City Summit, and in one of the breakout sessions, there was this woman from the Boston area, and she was talking about the use of thermal sources. Is that within your scope? Because, clearly, even though we get more than 300 and some days of sunlight a year here in Colorado and Denver, but there are days when it doesn't shine or the wind doesn't blow.
Yeah.
Whereas thermal is a much more reliable 24/7 source. Is that also something that you're looking at as an energy supply source?
We haven't looked at it extensively. We can certainly revisit that, and the modeling that's been done to date, that's not done. It's a work in progress. So we appreciate the suggestion and can add that in. I also know that the state's investing heavily in geothermal grants, and so I think it's worth exploring. I know it was explored with this building and ultimately not the pathway selected, but regionally, I think it's very appropriate to be considering.
Yeah, I do happen to know, I also sit on the fire board, that Adams County Fire District Rescue has a thermal-powered fire station, Station 11. So
Great.
If that's something you can just look at,
Yeah, thank you.
I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions?
If I may, I just want to add to Rich's comment. I think from my position, what this plan is really trying to accomplish is to give council the broader perspective of how to prioritize these initiatives. Because to your point, I think a lot of what we started with is
on a staffing level, we didn't have the right resources. We were trying to meet council needs. We were looking at, hey, here's a low-hanging fruit opportunity. I think what this really does is create the umbrella to really sort of menu select and be more thoughtful and intentional about not only what is important, but how we can go about with delivery on that. And I know that from our internal department organization, we're going to be bringing forward here in December some recommendations to help with the furtherance of that concept. But overall, I think, Rich, the bigger idea that we're really trying to accomplish here is to give you guys an easier menu select toolbox to work from so that it feels like it's the yield and the benefit for us.
It'd be far better. Did I hit the mute?
Yeah, you gotta repeat all
I'm sure it picked up on the other mics. Anyways, I want to bring that point home because to me, I think this is really the crux of what we're trying to accomplish with this effort is to really help council have a better menu select and a more thoughtful and intentional way of getting there.
Okay, I appreciate that. I did struggle when I was reviewing this, so I think having that context has allayed some of my concerns, so thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
Okay, I'm going to hand it over to Sarah to just bring us home with the final
Okay.
few next steps.
All right. Well, I appreciate all of your questions today. And so we just wanted to open up one final time to see if you had any other comments or feedback on the process, any other things that you'd like us to consider as we approach the remainder of our solution modeling.
Councilmember Burns.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just to kind of like tie a lot of different conversations we've had this evening together. We've been talking a lot about AI, and I'm often the proponent of technology on this dais. But I do know the extreme amount of energy and water that AI does take to run, entire states worth of that. And I would just like us as a dais and as a city to think about how these two goals are in opposition of each other at times, and how do we move forward with that, and how do we keep our sustainability goals in mind while we would like to future-proof, because this is also another version of future-proofing our city. And so I would just like us to come home and really just focus on that in the future and how all of these different things sort of marry together and work together in a sustainable way. Thank you.
Thank you for that.
I think that's all we have.
All right.
If I may.
Councilmember Kondo.
Sorry. I'm glad you brought up AI, Councilmember Burns, because one of the breakout sessions at City Summit was an outfit that was basically the presentation was prioritized budget process. And it uses AI basically to kind of tie things at the strategic plan level, action priority areas, through the line item in the budget, all the way down to the individual spending. And the AI is supposed to optimize the allocation of dollars so that you're getting the best bang for the buck, so to speak. And what is interesting was the speaker, Chris Fabian, who actually, I think he worked for Westminster, Wheat Ridge. He was a Wheat Ridge staffer. Basically gave an anecdote where I believe it was the city of Houston, they were able to use this and find $42 million in their budget. And so without cutting city services, they were able to optimize and be more efficient and found $42 million in the city of Houston's budget. Now, we're not the city of Houston, clearly, but with that $42 million, they were able to pay for their climate action plan initiatives. So I'm just sitting here thinking, yes, AI consumes energy, but sometimes AI can be your friend. Not that I'm encouraging us to consider using this. Obviously, the staff needs to look at it. But there are ways that AI could help us be more efficient in government, that perhaps we might be able to find monies to be able to pay for some of this stuff. So again, we'll debrief staff on some of the things that we learned there in Tampa.
And so I also wanted to bring up something that Mara was going to bring up. regarding sort of the realities of like the EV aspect, just on a more anecdotal level. So Mara worked with one of our employees who is below an income of $70,000 a year and was actually able, through all the state incentives as well as the federal rebates, was actually able to get this individual the top end Mustang Mach-E for under $200 a month. And so it is real. It's an opportunity that we're seeing happening today. We also have some folks who've recently leased the Leaf vehicle for around $19 a month. So there are some certain realities to what's happening today with the incentives that are out there. It's a bit of a heavy lift, but I do want to mention that in terms of a reality-based approach, in the current moment that we're in, there is a deliverable out there that does show results. These are anecdotes to it, but I do want to mention that, yes, the EV thing is a big component of this, but we've seen some really interesting firsthand examples of how that's coming and delivering today. So I realize that some of this may feel really aspirational, but there are some realities to where if you understand how to promulgate the system, you can get some real deliverable results. Thanks.
I don't see any other comments.
All right. Well, thank you for that, Brooke. I appreciate it. And maybe just to recap, I think I appreciate the comments today that it can be kind of hard to understand how all of these bits and pieces are working together in context. And so I just want to close out to reiterate what Brooke said, that this is really intended to be a decision-making tool, but to acknowledge that this technology is changing rapidly. And so we want to create space within this plan for you all to react and change with it. So in terms of next steps for the plan development, we're going to be incorporating your feedback into the final vision and goal framework. We're going to be refining our model to help speak up to that vision and goal framework, and then prioritizing specific actions for each solution. So how do we start to move toward some of those ambitious goals, and how do we start to make a dent into our progress? And then working with your staff to build out those action tables. So not just how do we do it, but who's doing it, by when, and with what resources to help them. In terms of next steps for you all, we have this is the same version of our calendar from earlier, but just focused in on the back half here. And so we're here today with you all, December and January, like I said, working with staff to do all of that action planning, coming to your sustainability committee to review the draft plan, to the community for what we're calling our draft plan review party. We'll invite you all, and I hope that you'll join, provide your feedback. It'll be kind of a nice way for you all to preview what we're going to bring to you in March, where we'll present the 100% draft plan, and then back in April for our final presentation of the plan. So with that, that's all we have for you today. Any final questions? All right. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Public invited to be heard. This is an opportunity for public comment. Statements are limited to 3 minutes per speaker. Comments must be related to an item previously addressed by council during the meeting. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak to council at this time? No? Okay. Thank you. I will entertain a motion that the city hold an executive session pursuant to Section 4.5D of the City of North Glen Home Rule Charter for legal consultation and advice regarding collective bargaining.
Motion to move to executive council, so stated.
Second.
Is there any discussion about that before we move on? Okay, please open the vote.
The vote is open.
Please vote.
I will close that vote, and the motion to meet in executive session passes unanimously.
We will adjourn to the executive session.